The kitchen at Cibo buzzes with tension as chef Matteo Rivera moves with calm precision amid the chaos. Once a Michelin-starred chef, now he's clinging to pride in a fading restaurant, haunted by what he's lost: his marriage, his reputation, and the shine of past success. When a signature dish is sent back untouched and a server reminds him diners care more about Instagram than taste, Matteo feels the weight of every sacrifice he's made. Enter Eliza Winters, sharp, poised, and unafraid to challenge him. In her sleek office overlooking San Francisco Bay, she questions his unwillingness to adapt. He accuses her of knowing nothing about preserving heritage. Their fiery clash is more than business, it's personal. Both carry battle scars behind their polished facades. And as sparks fly, the question isn't just whether they can work together, but whether love can rise from the heat, or collapse under it. Welcome back to Dear Love Diaries, where love isn't picture perfect, but it's real. Today's story hit me in the gut, in the best way. It's about starting over when the world thinks you're finished, choosing truth over appearances, and finding the kind of connection that demands vulnerability and guts. If you've ever had to rebuild from the rubble, this one's for you. We all know what it feels like to have life knock us down. To watch something we've built with our hands and hearts crumble before our eyes. For Matteo Rivera, that something was both his marriage and the restaurant that had become his identity. One Michelin star, countless rave reviews, and then, nothing. Empty dining rooms, divorce papers, and the crushing weight of starting over at 38. Then there's Eliza Winters, brilliant, accomplished, and carrying the invisible burden of enormous privilege. The daughter of one of San Francisco's wealthiest families, she's spent her entire life proving she's more than just a last name. More than just the heir to a hospitality empire. More than the woman whose heart was broken by someone who only wanted her for her connections. Wherever you're watching from, I'm so glad you're here. Drop your location in the comments. It's always such a joy to see how far this community reaches. From big cities to quiet corners, our stories connect us in the most beautiful ways. This is a story about second chances, not just in love, but in rediscovering your passion when life has knocked you down. It's about the courage it takes to be vulnerable again after betrayal. The strength required to trust your heart when your mind is screaming at you to protect yourself. Matteo wipes sweat from his brow as he chops onions with practiced precision. The kitchen at Sophia's restaurant isn't what he's used to, smaller, more cramped, lacking the custom equipment he once took for granted. But there's a rhythm to his work, the blade of his knife hitting the cutting board in perfect time, like a metronome keeping his thoughts in check. "You're early again," Sofia Mendoza says as she enters the kitchen, her chef's whites impeccable despite it being only 6 in the morning. "The produce delivery isn't even here yet." "Couldn't sleep," Matteo replies without looking up. Sleep has been elusive since the night he found the email from Diana's lawyer. Since the night he realized his wife and his business partner had been planning their exit strategy for months. "You know," Sophia says, tying her apron, "most people who can't sleep watch infomercials or scroll through their phones. They don't come in and prep enough mirepoix to feed half of San Francisco." A ghost of a smile crosses Matteo's face. This is why he's grateful for Sophia. She doesn't treat him like he's fragile. Doesn't walk on eggshells around him like everyone else who knows about his fall from grace. For a moment, his mind drifts back to the day Races received its Michelin star. The critics had been effusive. Rivera transforms traditional Mexican cuisine into something both familiar and revolutionary. Diana had worn red that night, her dark hair cascading down her back as she charmed investors and food critics alike. He'd been so proud, so certain that everything he'd worked for was finally coming together. 2 years later, it all unraveled with dizzying speed. Diana left with Gregory Lambert, the investor who'd promised to fund their expansion. Without Lambert's backing, and with half the restaurant now belonging to his soon-to-be ex-wife, Matteo had to sell at a devastating loss. Now his designer kitchen equipment sits in boxes in his tiny Mission District apartment. A reminder of what he had and what he lost. He keeps meaning to sell it, but every time he tries, something stops him. As if letting go of those tools would mean admitting defeat permanently. Earth to Matteo, Sophia says, waving a hand in front of his face. I asked if you wanted to lead the special tonight. Chen called in sick. Matteo hesitates. Leading the line means visibility. Visibility means questions from regular customers who recognize him. Who want to know what happened to races. Who look at him with pity. I can just work the grill station, he says, returning to his chopping. Sophia sighs. It's been 9 months, Matteo. You can't hide in the background forever. I'm not hiding. I'm regrouping. Right. And I'm dating Brad Pitt, Sophia retorts, but lets it drop. She knows when not to push. Across town in Pacific Heights, Eliza Winters stands at the floor-to-ceiling window of her office, gazing out at the San Francisco skyline. At 32, she's already responsible for the restaurant division of Winters Hospitality Group, 36 establishments across the country, each one more successful than the last. The morning sun glints off the Bay Bridge, but she barely notices the view anymore. Eliza, your father is waiting in the conference room, her assistant announces from the doorway. Eliza straightens her blazer and mentally prepares herself. Meetings with her father are never casual, even when they're technically just family catching up. Jonathan Winters expects excellence, even from his children. Especially from his children. He's early, she says, checking her watch. And he brought Marcus with him. Eliza's shoulders tense slightly. Her younger brother works directly with their father in the tech side of the business. Brilliant but ruthlessly competitive, Marcus has always viewed her restaurant division as the soft side of the Winters empire. In the minimalist conference room, Jonathan Winters stands studying a digital display of metrics from their latest acquisition. At 62, he remains imposing, tall, fit, with the confident bearing of someone who built an empire from nothing. There you are, he says without looking up. I was just telling Marcus about the new acquisition targets. Good morning to you too, Dad, Eliza says, kissing his cheek. She nods to her brother. Marcus. Marcus smirks. How's the food business? Still playing with recipes while the rest of us transform the digital landscape? Eliza ignores the jab. Our division showed 18% growth last quarter. How did your new app launch go? Before Marcus can respond, Jonathan interrupts. I've identified 3 potential restaurants for acquisition in the Mission District. Emerging chefs, good reviews, but undercapitalized. Prime for our portfolio. The Mission, Eliza repeats thoughtfully. That's a sensitive area, Dad. Gentrification concerns are real. We need to approach it with cultural awareness. Jonathan waves a dismissive hand. That's why I'm putting you in charge of it. You're good with the feeling side of business. Her phone buzzes with a text from her ex, Trevor. Don't forget we're expected at the Powell Foundation Gala next week. Your name's still on the invitation. Eliza stifles a sigh. 3 months since their breakup, and Trevor still expects her to fulfill couple duties when it benefits his career. Just like every man she's dated since business school, initially attracted to her accomplishments, ultimately more interested in her family connections. I've already done preliminary research, Jonathan continues. There's a place called Nido that's showing promise, and another spot, Cibo, that's struggling but has a loyal following. Eliza's attention snaps back to the meeting. Cibo? That's Sofia Mendoza's restaurant. She's a brilliant chef, but I heard she's having cash flow issues. Perfect target then, Marcus says. Buy low, rebrand, flip for profit. That's not how our restaurant division works, Eliza counters. We preserve what makes each place special while providing the structure for growth. Jonathan looks at her with approval. That's my girl. This is why you run restaurants and Marcus handles tech. Different approaches for different industries. The subtle compliment warms her, though she'd never admit how much her father's approval still matters. After the meeting, Eliza returns to her office to find another text from Trevor, "Need you to charm the Powell trustees. Wear the blue dress they liked." With deliberate calm, she blocks his number, something she should have done months ago. Back in the mission, Mateo is on break when Sophia approaches with an unusual tension in her shoulders. "I need to talk to you," she says, gesturing to the small office behind the kitchen. Once the door closes, she takes a deep breath. "I've been approached by a hospitality group. They want to buy SIBO." Mateo feels like he's been punched. "You're selling?" "I'm considering it," Sophia admits. "The restaurant barely breaks even most months. My kids need braces, my husband wants to quit his second job, and I haven't taken a real vacation in 4 years." "Who's the buyer?" Mateo asks, though he already knows the answer will be some soulless corporation that will turn Sophia's heartfelt cuisine into Instagram-friendly, culturally ambiguous food designed by marketing teams. Winter's Hospitality Group. The name hits Mateo like ice water. Everyone in the industry knows the Winter's name, a tech billionaire who expanded into hospitality and now owns some of the most profitable restaurant chains in the country. "Sophia, these corporate takeovers always end the same way. They'll keep you on as the face for a year, then gradually change everything that makes SIBO special until it's just another trendy spot with no soul." Sophia's eyes flash. "Not all of us have the luxury of putting artistic integrity over feeding our families, Mateo. Some of us don't have wealthy parents or investors we can fall back on." The words sting precisely because they're unfair. Mateo had built races from nothing, working double shifts and taking out loans that he's still paying off despite losing the restaurant. "I'm sorry," Sophia says immediately, regret washing over her face. "That was a low blow." Mateo shakes his head. "No, I'm sorry. It's your restaurant, your decision. I've seen what happens when you lose control of your creation." Sophia squeezes his shoulder. "I know. And that's exactly why I want you with me through this process. If I do sell, I need someone I trust to help me protect what matters." As Mateo returns to the kitchen, he makes a silent promise to himself. One day, he'll have his own place again. Small, maybe just a counter and a few tables. But it will be his. And this time, he won't let anyone take it from him. If you've ever had to rebuild after your world fell apart, or know someone who has, hit that subscribe button right now. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I always love seeing how far these stories reach. Chapter 2. Sophia's text comes at the worst possible time, emergency. Chen can't make it. Need you to handle his station for the private event tonight. Mateo stares at his phone, toothbrush hanging from his mouth. He'd planned a quiet evening sorting through his grandmother's recipes, searching for inspiration for his future restaurant. A restaurant that remains firmly in the realm of dreams while his savings account grows with painful slowness. "What event?" he texts back. "Potential investors. Very important. Please." 3 hours later, Mateo is prepping Chen's station with methodical precision. The private dining room has been transformed with elegant place settings, low lighting, and centerpieces featuring local flowers. Whatever this investment group is, Sophia's pulling out all the stops. "They're here," one of the servers whispers, and the kitchen energy shifts instantly. Backs straighten. Voices lower. The dance of a professional kitchen begins. Through the service window, Mateo catches glimpses of the guests, mostly men in expensive suits, a few women in business attire. Typical investor types. His jaw tightens. He's seen their kind before, talking about concept and market demographics, while knowing nothing about the soul of food. He focuses on the dishes instead, Chen's Asian-Mexican fusion menu that normally draws crowds. The flavors are good but safe, designed to impress without challenging. For the first 3 courses, Mateo executes Chen's recipes exactly as written. But when he spots a striking woman in a cream blazer nodding politely but without enthusiasm, something shifts inside him. He recognizes that look, the polite interest of someone who isn't truly moved by what they're experiencing. When the main course order comes in, Mateo makes an impulsive decision. Instead of Chen's planned miso-glazed sea base, he reaches for the dried chiles he's been keeping in his personal kit. His grandmother's recipe for red chili sauce flows through his fingers without conscious thought. "What are you doing?" Sophia hisses when she notices him deviating from the menu. "Trust me," Mateo says, and something in his voice, a confidence she hasn't heard in months, makes her step back. The resulting dish is beautiful in its simplicity, perfectly seared sea base in a complex red chili sauce that honors both the Asian influence of Chen's menu and Mateo's own Mexican heritage. He sends it out and watches through the window as the plates are served. The woman in the cream blazer takes a bite and pauses. Her expression shifts from polite interest to genuine surprise, then pleasure. She takes another bite, slower this time, analyzing. Then she looks toward the kitchen with unmistakable curiosity. When the dinner ends, Sophia appears at his side, her expression unreadable. "The investors want to meet the chef." "That's you," Mateo reminds her. "Not tonight. Tonight it was you." She nods toward the dining room. "They specifically asked about the main course." Reluctantly, Mateo wipes his hands and follows Sophia into the dining room, where only the woman in the cream blazer remains, examining the empty plate before her. "This is Mateo Rivera," Sophia introduces. "He stepped in for our fusion chef tonight." The woman stands, extending her hand. "Eliza Winters." "That was an extraordinary dish, Mr. Rivera." The name hits Mateo like a thunderbolt. Winters. As in Winters Hospitality Group. The corporate giant looking to acquire Sophia's restaurant. He takes her hand briefly, noticing the strength in her grip. "Thank you," he says stiffly. "The balance of flavors was remarkable," she continues. "Though I'm curious why you departed from the menu for the main course." Mateo meets her gaze directly. "The original dish was designed to be safe. Predictable." "And you don't approve of predictable?" There's a hint of amusement in her voice. "I believe food should evoke emotion, not just satisfaction," he replies. "It should tell a story." Sophia throws him a warning glance, but Eliza seems intrigued rather than offended. "And what story were you telling with that dish, Mr. Rivera?" "That authenticity matters. That fusion doesn't mean dilution." He pauses, then adds pointedly, that some things shouldn't be corporatized. Understanding dawns in her eyes. "You know who I am." "I know what your company does," he counters. "Buys independent restaurants, strips them of their identity, and turns them into algorithm-friendly concepts." Sophia interjects, "Mateo." But Eliza raises a hand. "It's all right." She studies Mateo with new interest. "You're not just a chef, are you? You have your own restaurant?" "Had," Mateo corrects, the word still bitter on his tongue. "Races. In North Beach." Recognition flickers across her face. "The Michelin star. I remember reading about it." She pauses. "What happened?" The question is direct, without the usual awkward dance people do when they know they're approaching sensitive territory. "Life happened," Mateo says simply, unwilling to expose his wounds to someone who represents everything he's grown to resent about the industry. Eliza nods, accepting the boundary. "Well, life brought you here tonight, and I'm glad it did. That was the most interesting dish I've had in months." She gathers her notes. "I look forward to seeing what else you create, Mr. Rivera." As she walks away, Mateo can't shake the feeling that this encounter has set something in motion, something he might not be able to control. Chapter 3. 2 weeks later, Sophia gathers her staff in the dining room before service. Her expression is a mixture of relief and apprehension. "It's official," she announces. "I've accepted Winter's Hospitality Group's offer to purchase SIBO." A murmur runs through the assembled servers and kitchen staff. Some exchange worried glances, others look cautiously optimistic. "What does this mean for us?" asks Chen, voicing the question on everyone's mind. "It means job security," Sophia answers. "Everyone keeps their positions. I'll remain as head chef for at least 2 years. And we'll have resources we've never had before, for equipment upgrades, marketing, benefits." As the staff disperses, buzzing with questions and speculation, Matteo remains seated, a hollow feeling spreading in his chest. He should be happy for Sophia. She deserves financial stability. But he's seen this story play out before. Sophia slides into the chair beside him. "I need to ask you something." "I'm happy for you," Matteo says automatically. "Liar," she replies with a half-smile. "But that's not what I want to talk about." She takes a deep breath. "They're sending someone to oversee the transition, make sure everything goes smoothly. I requested that you be my liaison with them." Matteo stares at her. "You want me to be the corporate babysitter?" "I want you to be my shield," Sophia corrects. "Someone who understands food and business. Someone who won't be intimidated by suits with spreadsheets." "Sophia, It comes with a title bump and a raise," she adds. "Sous chef." The offer is tempting, not for the money but for the chance to have more creative influence again. Still, working directly with Winters feels like a betrayal of everything he believes about independent restaurants. "Who's the Winters representative?" he asks, already suspecting the answer. "Eliza Winters herself," Sophia confirms. "Apparently, your little culinary rebellion made quite an impression." Matteo rubs his temples. "I'll think about it." 3 days later, he's still thinking about it when he arrives at work to find Eliza Winters touring the kitchen with Sophia. Eliza is dressed more casually than at the dinner, dark jeans and a simple blouse, but still exudes authority. Her natural hair is pulled back in a neat bun, revealing elegant cheekbones and observant eyes. "Mr. Rivera," she says when she spots him. "I was hoping you'd be here today." Sophia shoots him a pointed look before excusing herself to handle a delivery issue. "I assume Sophia told you about our arrangement," Eliza continues. "She mentioned it," Matteo replies noncommittally, continuing his prep work. "And you're hesitant." Matteo puts down his knife. "Look, Ms. Winters, I appreciate Sophia's faith in me, but I'm not sure I'm the right person for this. I'm not exactly a fan of corporate restaurant groups." "So I gathered," she says with unexpected humor. "That's precisely why Sophia wants you involved." And why I agreed. This surprises him. "You want someone who openly opposes what your company does?" "I want someone who cares enough to be honest," she clarifies. "Most chefs tell me what they think I want to hear. You told me what you actually believe." Despite himself, Matteo is intrigued. And what exactly would this liaison role involve? Being Sophia's advocate. Ensuring that what makes SIBO special remains intact while we implement systems to make it more profitable and sustainable. She leans against the counter. "Contrary to what you might think, Mr. Rivera, we don't succeed by homogenizing restaurants. We succeed by identifying what makes them unique and making that uniqueness accessible to a wider audience." It sounds good in theory, but Matteo has seen too many beloved establishments lose their soul after acquisition. "I'll consider it," he says finally. "Excellent. We can discuss details over dinner tonight." "Tonight?" 8 o'clock. "I've made reservations at Birdsong." She names one of the city's most acclaimed restaurants. "Unless you have other plans?" The dinner invitation feels like a power move, her territory, her rules. "I work dinner service," he says. I've already cleared it with Sophia. Of course she has. Fine. Birdsong at 8. After she leaves, Sophia reappears. So? Are you taking the position? I haven't decided, Matteo says. But apparently I'm having dinner with Eliza Winters tonight. Sophia's eyes widen. Oh. It's not what you're thinking. It's a business dinner. Sophia replies skeptically. Well, business or not, maybe don't antagonize the woman who just bought my restaurant. Birdsong is everything the critics claim, innovative cuisine that honors ingredients and traditions while pushing boundaries. In another life, Matteo would have savored every bite, analyzed every technique. Tonight, he's too aware of Eliza sitting across from him, studying him with those perceptive eyes. You're not enjoying the food, she observes midway through the tasting menu. The food is exceptional, Matteo counters. And yet you've been eating mechanically for the last 3 courses. He sets down his fork. Why did you really invite me here, Ms. Winters? Eliza, please. She takes a sip of wine. And I invited you because I wanted to understand you better. Sophia speaks highly of your talents, but she was vague about your background. What's to understand? I had a restaurant. Now I don't. That's what happened, not who you are. She leans forward. The chef who created that sea-based dish isn't just a line cook. He's someone with vision. With something to say. Matteo shifts uncomfortably under her assessment. Maybe I don't want to be understood. That would be a shame, she says simply. Talent like yours should be shared. The conversation drifts to safer topics. Food trends, culinary techniques, the San Francisco restaurant scene. Despite his reservations, Matteo finds himself engaged by her knowledge and genuine passion for hospitality. As the evening progresses, they stay long after their meal is finished, debating the merits of molecular gastronomy versus traditional cooking methods. It's the most animated Matteo has felt in months, and he catches himself almost enjoying the intellectual sparring. It's nearly midnight, Eliza notes with surprise, checking her watch. I didn't realize we'd been here so long. Outside the restaurant, the night air is cool and crisp. San Francisco at night still takes Matteo's breath away sometimes, the lights reflecting in the bay, the fog rolling in over the hills. I should let you know, Eliza says as they wait for their respective cars, that I'll be at Cibo daily for the next few weeks, overseeing the transition. Daily? Matteo repeats, dread mixing with an unexpected flutter of anticipation. Is that a problem? He considers telling her yes, it is a problem. That her corporate presence will disrupt the kitchen's rhythm. That he doesn't want to be reminded daily of everything he's lost. Instead, he finds himself saying, no. Not a problem. Good. And have you decided about the liaison position? Matteo hesitates, then nods slowly. I'll do it. For Sophia. For Sophia, Eliza agrees with a small smile. But perhaps along the way, you'll discover it's good for you too. As her car arrives, she holds out her hand. I look forward to working with you, Matteo. It's the first time she's used his first name, and something about the way she says it, with respect rather than condescension, catches him off guard. Likewise, he says, surprised to find he might actually mean it. That night, Matteo lies awake, replaying the evening's conversation. There's something disarming about Eliza Winters, a genuineness that contradicts what he expected from a corporate executive. And beneath her professional composure, he sensed a guarded vulnerability that felt oddly familiar. Have you ever misjudged someone only to discover there was so much more beneath the surface? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you're enjoying Matteo and Eliza's journey, tap that like button to help more people find this story. Chapter 4. The transition begins smoother than Matteo expected. Eliza proves to be thoughtful and respectful, consulting Sophia on every decision and making only subtle changes to operations. She spends hours observing the kitchen, taking notes, and occasionally asking Matteo questions about workflow or ingredients. "You're not what I expected," he admits one afternoon as they review inventory systems. "Is that a compliment?" she asks, a hint of amusement in her voice. "An observation. I thought you'd come in with a corporate sledgehammer." "That would be counterproductive," she says. "The magic of a restaurant is its people and their passion. Break that, and you've destroyed the very thing you purchased." It's a surprisingly insightful comment from someone he'd assumed was just another profit-focused executive. Their working relationship settles into a comfortable rhythm over the next 2 weeks. Matteo finds himself looking forward to their daily check-ins, enjoying the way her analytical mind complements his creative approach. There's an ease between them that he hasn't felt with anyone in a long time. Until the day he overhears a phone conversation that shatters his growing trust. He's dropping off reports in the small office Eliza uses when he hears her voice from inside. "Yes, Dad, the integration is proceeding according to plan," she's saying. "Sophia's team is talented. Yes, I think we can increase profit margins by at least 20% within 6 months. No, I don't anticipate any resistance. They don't need to know all the details yet." Matteo freezes, the familiar sting of betrayal washing over him. So this is who she really is, just another Winters putting profit over people, hiding her true intentions behind a facade of collaboration. When she emerges from the office, she immediately senses his change in demeanor. "Is everything all right?" she asks. "Perfectly fine," he replies coldly. "Just dropping off those reports you wanted." She studies him. "Something's wrong." "Nothing's wrong, Ms. Winters." He emphasizes her surname, reinstating the professional distance he'd let slip away. "I just remembered who I'm dealing with." Before she can respond, he turns and walks back to the kitchen. That evening, curiosity gets the better of him. He searches Eliza Winters online and is flooded with results. Winters' heiress takes helm of restaurant division, Jonathan Winters' daughter expands family empire, the next generation, Eliza Winters follows father's footsteps. Photos show her at galas and charity events, always in proximity to her billionaire father. In one, she stands beside a handsome man identified as venture capitalist Trevor Highsmith, son of tech pioneer William Highsmith. The image of her privileged life solidifies his suspicions. She's not just a corporate representative, she's restaurant royalty playing at understanding the struggles of independent establishments like SIBO. No wonder she talks so eloquently about passion and authenticity, she's never had to fight for either. The next day, Matteo is deliberately formal with Eliza, answering her questions with minimal information and avoiding the friendly banter that had developed between them. She finally corners him in the dry storage room. "Are you going to tell me what changed overnight?" "Nothing changed. I just remembered who you really are." Her brow furrows. "And who am I, exactly?" "Eliza Winters, daughter of Jonathan Winters, heiress to the Winters fortune, who's never had to worry about making rent or losing everything she's worked for." Understanding dawns in her eyes. "You looked me up. You could have mentioned who you were from the beginning." "Would it have made a difference?" she challenges. "Would you have been more or less willing to work with me knowing my last name?" "That's not the point," Matteo says, though they both know it is. "The point is transparency. Trust." "Trust," she repeats, a hint of bitterness in her voice. "You think I don't understand why you're so guarded with that? You think I've never been used or betrayed because I was born privileged?" Her directness catches him off guard. "Do you know how many people have pretended to care about me, only to reveal they were interested in my connections? My father's influence? My family's money?" She takes a step closer. "Every relationship, every friendship comes with the question, do they see me, or just the Winters name?" The vulnerability in her eyes is so raw that Matteo momentarily forgets his anger. So yes, I didn't announce my last name when we met, Eliza continues, her voice steadying. Because for once, I wanted to be judged on my actions, not my family tree. Matteo crosses his arms, still defensive but listening. And that conversation I overheard? About increasing profit margins and not telling us all the details. Business realities, she says without apology. This is still an acquisition. My father expects returns. But if you'd heard the whole conversation, you'd know I was defending the integrity of this place. The details I mentioned were about restructuring the parent company's expectations, not changing Sophia's vision. The tension in the storage room thickens as they stare at each other. Around them, the scents of dried herbs and spices hang in the air: rosemary, bay leaf, cumin, ingredients that Matteo knows must balance perfectly in his dishes. Just as he's starting to see the complex balance in the woman before him. I don't expect you to trust me overnight, Eliza says finally. But I'm not the enemy you've created in your mind. Before Matteo can respond, the door swings open. Sophia stands there, looking between them with raised eyebrows. Whatever's happening here, she says, it needs to wait. We have a situation in the dining room. The tension breaks as they follow Sophia out. A renowned food critic, one whose review could make or break a restaurant's reputation, has arrived unannounced. Later that night, after an intense service where Matteo's skills were pushed to their limits, Eliza finds him in the quiet kitchen. Most of the staff have gone home, only the occasional clang of dishes from the dishwasher breaks the silence. You were incredible tonight, she says, leaning against a prep table. Matteo wipes down his station, exhausted but satisfied. It's what I do. I know. She hesitates. I've read about you, too. He freezes, knife hovering over the cutting board. Matteo Rivera. Executive chef and owner of races. Michelin star at 35. Then, divorce, legal battles, lost the restaurant. She says it without judgment, just stating facts. So we've both done our research, he says tightly. I always research the people I work with. She takes a step forward. But that's not who you are to me. I've seen you in this kitchen. I've tasted your food. That tells me more than any article. Matteo puts down the knife, finally meeting her eyes. Then I guess we both have misconceptions to overcome. The moment stretches between them, a new understanding forming. I have a proposition, Eliza says suddenly. The Winters Group is hosting a major charity gala next month. Top chefs from across the country will be showcasing signature dishes. We need someone to represent SIBO. And you want me? I want your food. Your vision. Without corporate interference. She smiles slightly. Consider it a test of trust. On both sides. Matteo should refuse. Taking this opportunity means stepping further into Eliza's world, a world he's been burned by before. But the chef in him, the part that's been simmering in the background of a line cook position for too long, hungers for the chance to create again on his own terms. I'll think about it, he says, which they both know means yes. The next morning, Sophia finds him experimenting with new flavor combinations in the quiet pre-service kitchen. Taking the gala offer, she asks, stealing a taste from his pan. How did you? Eliza and I talk, Sophia says with a shrug. She's not what you think, you know. I'm starting to see that. He adjusts the flame under his pan. But this feels like charity. Like pity. Sophia barks out a laugh. That woman doesn't do charity or pity. She sees value and opportunity. The question is whether you're brave enough to see it too. It's complicated, Matteo mutters. Life is complicated, Sophia counters. Sometimes the way forward isn't the path you planned. When Eliza arrives later, Matteo catches her in the hallway. I'll do it, he says without preamble. The gala. But I need complete creative control. Relief and pleasure brighten her face. Absolutely. And this isn't about us, whatever this is, he clarifies, gesturing vaguely between them. This is professional. Of course, she agrees too quickly, her expression carefully neutral now. As she walks away, Matteo realizes he's not sure if he's protecting himself from her expectations or his own growing feelings. Either way, he's committed now, to the gala, to working closely with Eliza, and to seeing where this unexpected path might lead. What he doesn't see is Eliza's small, satisfied smile as she continues down the hallway, already planning how to make this opportunity everything Matteo deserves, and perhaps more than either of them expected. Chapter 5. The weeks leading up to the gala transform Matteo and Eliza's relationship. What begins as formal planning sessions gradually evolve into something more fluid, more genuine, as they immerse themselves in creating the perfect menu. If we're showcasing San Francisco flavors, we need to start at the source, Matteo insists one morning, pulling up in front of Eliza's sleek downtown apartment building in his weathered pickup truck. She emerges looking refreshingly casual in jeans and a simple blouse, a stark contrast to her usual corporate attire. Matteo finds himself noticing the way sunlight catches in her honey blonde hair, loosely framing her face instead of pulled back in her signature ponytail. "Where exactly are we going?" she asks, climbing into his truck with surprising enthusiasm. "The Ferry Building Farmers Market first," he says, navigating through early morning traffic. "Then Chinatown, North Beach, and if we have time, a few spots in the Mission that only locals know about." The day unfolds as a culinary adventure through San Francisco's diverse neighborhoods. At the farmers market, Matteo introduces Eliza to his favorite vendors, people who've supplied his kitchens for years. She watches, fascinated, as he selects produce with reverent hands, explaining the subtle differences in varieties and growing methods. "This is the real business of food," he tells her, holding up a perfectly ripe early girl tomato. "Not balance sheets and profit margins, but relationships with the people who grow it, understanding what makes each ingredient special." Eliza absorbs his passion with genuine interest. "I've overlooked this part," she admits. "We evaluate suppliers on consistency and cost, but this," she gestures to the vibrant market around them, "this is what makes food meaningful." In Chinatown, Matteo leads her down narrow alleys to a tiny shop where an elderly woman greets him like family and shows them exotic spices Eliza has never seen before. In North Beach, they sample olive oils in a family-owned deli where 3 generations work side by side. By mid-afternoon, they're in the Mission, where Matteo hesitates before a modest building with a faded sign. "This was my grandmother's restaurant," he explains quietly. "It's where I first learned to cook. New owners now, but they kept some of her recipes." Inside, the current owner embraces Matteo warmly and insists they try the day's special, a complex mole that tastes of history and heritage. "This is what I've been trying to tell you," Matteo says as they savor the dish. "Food isn't just sustenance or even art, it's memory, culture, identity." Eliza watches him, seeing beyond the talented chef to the man shaped by these experiences. "That's why you resisted our acquisition," she realizes. "You saw it as erasing identity. Homogenization is profitable," he says with a shrug. "It doesn't have to be that way," she counters. "What if a hospitality group actually emphasized authenticity? Celebrated the unique story of each restaurant instead of imposing uniformity?" The passion in her voice surprises Matteo. This isn't corporate speak, it's a genuine vision. The conversation continues as they visit more neighborhoods, with Eliza sharing insights about the business challenges small restaurants face and how proper backing could help them thrive without compromising their essence. Matteo finds himself respecting her perspective, seeing how her analytical mind complements his creative instincts. As evening approaches, Matteo suggests one final stop, a hidden rooftop garden maintained by a collective of chefs. "Few people know about this place," he says as they climb narrow stairs to the roof. "It's where I come when I need to remember why I cook." The space opens before them. A lush urban oasis with raised beds of herbs and vegetables set against the backdrop of the San Francisco skyline bathed in golden hour light. "It's beautiful," Eliza whispers. Mateo reaches down to pluck a leaf of bronze fennel, offering it to her. "Try this." She takes it, their fingers brushing momentarily, and places it on her tongue. Her eyes widen at the complex flavor. "Now imagine this with pan-seared scallops, finished with brown butter," he suggests. "That's going on the gala menu," she declares, and they both laugh. As the sun sets over the city, they sit among the herbs, planning the menu in earnest, a perfect fusion of Mateo's culinary heritage and Eliza's understanding of their audience. "Tell me about your grandmother," Eliza asks softly. "The one who taught you to cook." Something in her genuine interest breaks down another wall in Mateo. He shares stories of his childhood in his grandmother's kitchen, of learning to make tortillas before he could reach the counter without a stool, of the way she taught him that feeding people was an act of love. "What about you?" he asks finally. "What made you choose restaurants instead of following your father directly into tech?" Eliza is quiet for a moment. "When I was little, my parents worked constantly. Business dinners were often the only time I saw them." She smiles at the memory. "But in restaurants, watching how people connected over meals, how the right atmosphere created moments of joy even among stressed executives, I fell in love with that magic." "That's not what I expected," Mateo admits. "We're both full of surprises," she replies, holding his gaze a moment longer than necessary. The following weeks find them developing a rhythm of collaboration. Eliza secures impressive ingredients that would normally be beyond reach. Dayboat scallops shipped directly from Maine, rare mushrooms foraged in the Pacific Northwest, a small batch olive oil that Mateo has coveted for years. Mateo, in turn, opens up about his culinary philosophy, sharing techniques he's perfected over years. In the kitchen, they move in unconscious harmony, she anticipating his needs, he respecting her suggestions. During a late-night tasting session, as they debate the merits of different finishing salts, Mateo realizes with a start that he hasn't felt this alive, this inspired, since before his restaurant closed. Before his divorce. Before failure rewrote his story. "What's wrong?" Eliza asks, noticing his sudden silence. "Nothing," he says, shaking off the thought. "Just realizing that this menu might be the best work I've done in years." She studies him for a moment. "It's not just the menu, Mateo. It's you. You're cooking with your heart again." The simple observation, and the fact that she's seen this change in him, catches him off guard. Before he can respond, her phone chimes with a message. "That's Marcus," she says, checking the screen. "My brother. He's in town for the gala preparations and wants to meet for breakfast tomorrow." She hesitates, then adds, "Would you join us? He's curious about the chef I've been talking about." "You've been talking about me?" Mateo asks, an unexpected warmth spreading through him. She blushes slightly. "Just professionally, of course." "Of course," he echoes, not believing it for a second. Neither does she, from the way she avoids his eyes. "So, breakfast?" she prompts. "I'd like that," he says simply, and the smile she gives him lights something in his chest that he thought had long since burned out. Chapter 6. The night of the gala arrives with a nervous energy that electrifies the air. Mateo stands in the massive hotel kitchen that has been temporarily assigned to him, surveying his team. A mix of SIBO's regular staff and culinary students eager for the experience. In the corner, Sophia oversees the cold station, occasionally shooting him encouraging glances. 10 minutes until first service, calls the event coordinator, and Mateo feels the familiar rush of adrenaline that has fueled his career. This is where he belongs. "You ready?" Eliza appears at his side, stunning in a midnight blue gown that makes her look like she stepped out of a different world than the one they've shared these past weeks. "Born ready," he replies with more confidence than he feels. This isn't just any event, it's his reintroduction to the upper echelon of San Francisco's culinary scene. People who once praised his restaurant will be tasting his food again, judging whether his talent survived his fall from grace. More significantly, he'll be meeting Jonathan Winters and the rest of Eliza's family officially. The thought makes his palms sweat more than the impending service. Eliza seems to read his mind. "They're going to love your food," she assures him. "And, they'll see what I see in you." Before he can ask exactly what she sees in him, she's called away to greet arriving guests. Mateo turns back to his station, focusing on the final preparations for his showcase dish, a reimagining of his grandmother's mole with locally sourced ingredients and modern technique, served with perfectly seared duck breast. The service begins in a whirlwind of activity. Mateo falls into the rhythm of the kitchen, calling orders, inspecting plates, making micro-adjustments that transform excellent dishes into transcendent ones. Through the kitchen doors, he catches glimpses of the gala, crystal chandeliers illuminating San Francisco's elite as they mingle, each station showcasing a different chef's creation. He notices Eliza moving effortlessly through the crowds, introducing people, ensuring everything runs smoothly. Their eyes meet briefly across the room, and she gives him a private smile that somehow cuts through the chaos. Halfway through the evening, a hush falls over the kitchen as Jonathan Winters himself enters with a small entourage. Tall and imposing with silvering hair, he carries himself with the easy confidence of a man accustomed to power. Beside him stands a younger man with a similar bearing, Marcus, Eliza's brother, whom Mateo had met briefly at an uncomfortable breakfast where he'd felt thoroughly examined and found wanting. "Mr. Rivera," Jonathan extends his hand. "My daughter has spoken highly of your work." Mateo wipes his hands on his apron before accepting the handshake. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Winters. I understand you were the mind behind Races," Jonathan continues. "Remarkable restaurant. Shame about what happened." The reference to his failure stings, but Mateo maintains his professional demeanor. "Every chef has setbacks. The important thing is what you create next." Jonathan studies him with shrewd eyes. "Indeed. Well, let's see what you've created tonight." The kitchen springs into action, preparing a tasting of each dish from Mateo's menu. As Jonathan and Marcus sample each one, their expressions give little away. Mateo feels like he's back in culinary school, being judged by unforgiving instructors. Finally, Jonathan tastes the mole dish. He closes his eyes briefly, and when he opens them, there's a new respect in his gaze. "Impressive, Mr. Rivera. There's something here that wasn't in Races. Something more authentic." "Thank you, sir. Eliza mentioned you might be interested in discussing future opportunities with our group." Jonathan's tone shifts to business. "Perhaps we should arrange a proper meeting next week." Before Mateo can respond, they're interrupted by a commotion in the dining room. Through the kitchen doors, he sees Eliza engaged in intense conversation with an older woman who gestures enthusiastically toward the kitchen. "Ah," Jonathan says with a slight smile. "My wife has discovered your food. Marina has an exceptional palate and strong opinions to match. I suggest you prepare yourself." Moments later, Eliza leads her mother into the kitchen. Marina Winters is an elegant woman with artistic flair evident in her unique jewelry and the streak of blue in her otherwise perfectly styled blonde hair. "You must be Mateo," she says warmly, taking both his hands in hers. "That mole sauce is a revelation. I must know your story." Unlike the calculated assessment from Jonathan and Marcus, Marina's interest feels genuine and immediate. She insists on hearing about his grandmother's influence, asking thoughtful questions about his technique and philosophy. "Mother, Mateo needs to supervise the kitchen," Eliza finally interrupts with fond exasperation. "Of course, darling." Marina pats Mateo's cheek affectionately. "But I'm claiming you for brunch on Sunday." No arguments. After they leave, Sophia sidles up to him. Well, you've survived the winter's gauntlet. How does it feel? Surreal, Matteo admits. Marina seems nothing like what you'd expect from a billionaire's wife. Sophia finishes for him. I got the same impression. She's real. The rest of the evening passes in a blur of compliments and connections. Chefs Matteo once considered peers, who had distanced themselves after his restaurant failed, now approach with renewed interest. Restaurant critics ask about his future plans. Investors discreetly slip business cards into his hand. It's nearly midnight when the last guests depart and the kitchen team begins breaking down their stations. Matteo feels simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. Chef. One of the culinary students approaches shyly. I just wanted to say, working with you tonight was an honor. The way you talked about food, about respecting ingredients, it reminded me why I wanted to cook in the first place. The simple comment touches Matteo more deeply than any of the high-profile praise he's received all night. Thank you, he says sincerely. Remember that feeling. It'll carry you through the hardest days in this business. After the student leaves, Matteo looks around the nearly empty kitchen. Sophia and the remaining staff are loading the last equipment into the van. He begins wiping down his station, a chef's ingrained habit. Leave that for the cleanup crew, Eliza's voice comes from behind him. She's slipped off her heels, standing barefoot on the kitchen tiles. Come with me. She leads him through the now empty ballroom and out onto a terrace overlooking the city. The San Francisco skyline glitters beneath them, and a cool breeze carries the scent of the bay. You were magnificent tonight, she says, leaning against the balustrade. Everyone was talking about your food, asking where they could taste more. It went well, he agrees, standing beside her. The night air feels electric between them. It went better than well, Matteo. My father wants to discuss backing your next restaurant. The words hang in the air, full of possibility and complication. His own restaurant again, but tied to the winter's name, to Eliza's family. That's a significant offer. It doesn't have to be complicated, she says, reading his hesitation. You'd have creative control. We'd handle the business side, the location, marketing. It would be a winter's restaurant, he concludes. It would be your restaurant, with our support. She turns to face him fully now. Unless there's another reason you're hesitating. The real question hangs unspoken between them. Is he afraid of mixing business with whatever is developing between them personally? Eliza. He begins, but words fail him. She steps closer. Tonight proved what I've known since I first tasted your food. You deserve to be creating at the highest level again. Don't let pride or fear hold you back. It's not just pride, he admits. Last time I built something, I lost everything, the restaurant, my marriage, my confidence. Starting over means risking failure again. Or it means a second chance to get it right. Her hand finds his on the balustrade, her touch gentle but decisive. Sometimes we need to trust not just in ourselves, but in the people who believe in us. The honesty of the moment strips away his remaining defenses. Before he can overthink it, Matteo leans forward and kisses her. It's gentle at first, questioning, but deepens as she responds with equal feeling. When they pull apart, they stay close, foreheads nearly touching. That complicates things, he whispers. Or clarifies them, she counters. I've wanted to do that since you served me that first dish at Cibo. He laughs softly. Even when you thought I was deliberately sabotaging your tasting? Especially then. Your stubborn integrity was ridiculously attractive. They kiss again, more confident now, the city lights twinkling around them like witnesses to this turning point. So about my father's offer, she eventually murmurs against his lips. Let's discuss it, Matteo concedes. But with clear boundaries. Whatever happens between us, he gestures between them, needs to be separate from business decisions. Agreed. She steps back slightly, her expression becoming more formal though her eyes still shine. So, Chef Rivera, would you be interested in exploring a potential restaurant concept with Winters Hospitality Group? As a partner, not an employee. He extends his hand with mock seriousness. Ms. Winters, I believe I would. As they shake hands, formally sealing this new professional relationship while their personal one hangs tantalizingly undefined, Mateo realizes he's standing at a crossroads. Behind him lies the safe, cautious path he's walked since his failure, limiting his ambitions, protecting himself from further loss. Ahead lies uncertainty, yes, but also possibility, a chance to create again on his terms, to trust again despite his scars. With Eliza's hand in his, the choice suddenly seems obvious. Chapter 7. The Winters family estate in Pacific Heights is everything Mateo expected and dreaded, a magnificent historic mansion with panoramic views of the bay, staffed by discreet professionals who seem to anticipate needs before they're expressed. As he follows the housekeeper through imposing hallways adorned with museum-quality art, Mateo feels increasingly out of place despite his carefully chosen attire. You're overthinking this, Eliza assures him, sensing his discomfort. It's just Sunday brunch. At a house that could fit my entire apartment building, he mutters. She squeezes his hand reassuringly. They want to know you, that's all. The chef, or the man kissing their daughter? Both, she admits. Is that so terrible? Before he can answer, they reach a sun-drenched solarium where the Winters family awaits. Jonathan rises from his seat, offering a firm handshake. Marina embraces Mateo warmly, as if they're already family. Marcus, however, maintains a cool distance, his smile not reaching his eyes. Welcome to our home, Jonathan says. Eliza tells me you prefer coffee to mimosas in the morning. Colombian, black? The fact that Eliza has shared such a small detail about him with her father feels unexpectedly intimate. Yes, thank you, Mateo responds, taking the offered seat beside Eliza. The brunch begins pleasantly enough, with Marina dominating the conversation, asking about Mateo's childhood and culinary journey with genuine interest. He finds himself relaxing slightly, sharing stories of his grandmother's kitchen and his time in culinary school. Scholarship student, weren't you? Marcus interjects during a pause. Impressive to make it through without family connections. The comment hangs awkwardly, highlighting the class divide that Mateo has been trying to ignore. Marcus, Eliza warns. It's a compliment, her brother protests with manufactured innocence. Not everyone has our advantages. Some would say working twice as hard for the same opportunities builds character, Mateo responds evenly, meeting Marcus's gaze. Jonathan chuckles unexpectedly. Well said, Mateo. He turns to Marcus. Your sister could have chosen someone who merely agrees with her. Instead, she's found someone with conviction. Marcus looks chastened but not convinced. Speaking of conviction, how are the plans for Rivera's new restaurant progressing? The board is quite interested in the concept. The shift to business talk creates a tangible change in atmosphere. Jonathan's questions become more pointed, probing Mateo's vision for the restaurant, his understanding of the market, his plans for scalability. I'm not interested in creating a template that can be reproduced in every city, Mateo states firmly. This restaurant will be specific to San Francisco, to the unique ingredients and culture here. Admirable, Jonathan nods. But limiting from a business perspective. Not every success needs to be measured by how many locations you can open, Mateo counters. Marina intervenes smoothly. Jonathan, remember when we first met? You were developing software for a single application, not an empire. She turns to Mateo. He was just as stubborn about his vision then as you are now. The comparison seems to please Jonathan, who launches into stories of his early days as an entrepreneur. Mateo catches Eliza smiling gratefully at her mother for the deft redirection. The conversation continues through the meal, with Mateo gradually feeling that he's passing some unspoken test, until dessert arrives and Marina innocently asks about his family. "Will your parents be joining us for the opening of your new restaurant? We'd love to meet them." "My mother passed away when I was in high school," Mateo explains. "My father still lives in the mission. He's a retired construction worker." "Construction," Marcus repeats thoughtfully. "And now his son will be partnering with one of the largest hospitality groups in the country. The American dream in action." The condescension is subtle but unmistakable. Mateo feels Eliza stiffen beside him. "My father built things that will stand for generations," Mateo responds, his tone level despite his rising anger. "He taught me that whatever you create, a building, a meal, a business, should be made with integrity and meant to last. I carry those lessons into my kitchen every day." An uncomfortable silence falls over the table until Marina speaks again. "I'd very much like to meet him, Mateo. Perhaps he could join us for dinner sometime soon." The genuine warmth in her invitation diffuses some of the tension, and the remainder of brunch passes without further incident. As they prepare to leave, Marina pulls Mateo aside to show him her garden while Eliza speaks privately with her father. "Don't let Marcus get under your skin," Marina advises, clipping herbs with practiced ease. "He's protective of his sister and the family business. He'll come around when he sees what Eliza already does." "And what's that?" Mateo can't help asking. Marina smiles knowingly. "That you're not just passing through our lives. You're making a home there." She hands him a bundle of fresh rosemary. "For your test kitchen. Nothing from a store can match garden-grown." The simple gesture of inclusion touches Mateo deeply. The following week brings a whirlwind of activity as plans for the new restaurant accelerate. Mateo and Eliza tour potential locations, interview staff, and develop menu concepts together. Their professional partnership flourishes alongside their personal relationship, each day deepening their connection. Until the night of the San Francisco Culinary Guild's annual reception, when the past Mateo has been avoiding walks directly into their carefully constructed present. "I was wondering when you'd return to the scene," a familiar voice says as Mateo reaches for a glass of champagne from a passing server. He turns to find Diana, elegant in a designer dress, her dark hair swept into a sophisticated updo so different from the casual style she preferred during their marriage. "Diana." He keeps his voice neutral despite the sudden tightness in his chest. "I didn't know you'd be here. I'm representing Highsmith Ventures now. We're moving aggressively into the restaurant space." She sips her champagne, studying him over the rim. "I heard rumors you've been courting investors. Back for another attempt after races?" The casual mention of his failed restaurant stings more coming from her than it would from anyone else. Before he can respond, Eliza appears at his side, placing a subtle but proprietary hand on his arm. "Mateo, the Matsuda brothers are asking about your thoughts on their new sake brewery," she says smoothly before noticing Diana. "Oh, I'm sorry for interrupting." "Not at all," Diana responds with a practiced smile. "Diana Patterson. I don't believe we've met, though I recognize you from the society pages, Ms. Winters." "Eliza, please." Her tone is perfectly cordial as she extends her hand. "Are you in the industry?" In a manner of speaking, Diana responds. "Mateo and I were married for 8 years. I managed races with him." The revelation lands like a stone in still water, ripples of tension expanding outward. Eliza's hand tenses slightly on Mateo's arm before she composes herself. "I see," she says carefully. Mateo has mentioned how much he learned from that experience. Diana's laugh holds no warmth. "Is that what he calls it? An experience?" She turns her attention back to Mateo. "You always did have a gift for understating disaster." "Diana," Mateo warns quietly. "Don't worry, I'm not here to rehash ancient history," Diana assures him insincerely. "But since we're all professionals, you should know that Highsmith is particularly interested in the site on Valencia Street, the one you've been considering for your new venture with Winter's Hospitality. The revelation that she knows their plans sends a chill through Mateo. He feels Eliza stiffen beside him. Trevor sends his regards, by the way, Diana adds, her eyes flicking meaningfully to Eliza. He mentioned you two have history as well. Small world, isn't it? Before either can respond, Diana excuses herself with practiced grace, leaving a vacuum of uncomfortable questions in her wake. Trevor Highsmith? Mateo asks as they watch her disappear into the crowd. The venture capitalist from the photos I saw online? Eliza's expression is tight. Ancient history, as she put it. We dated briefly 2 years ago. And now he's backing my ex-wife's company, which happens to be competing for our restaurant location. Mateo's voice is flat. That's quite a coincidence. It's a competitive industry, Eliza says diplomatically. And San Francisco is a small town in many ways. You didn't think to mention this connection before? I didn't realize Diana was working with Highsmith Ventures, she counters. And Trevor was never serious. Just another man who thought dating a Winters would advance his career. The comment hangs between them, loaded with implication. Had Diana left Mateo for similar reasons? Was ambition the fatal flaw in both their past relationships? Before they can discuss it further, they're drawn into separate conversations with industry contacts. Throughout the evening, Mateo catches glimpses of Diana speaking with various investors and chefs, her gaze occasionally finding his across the room with unsettling intensity. Later, as they leave the event, Mateo notices Eliza's unusual silence. You're thinking about Diana, he guesses as they wait for the valet. I'm thinking about what she didn't say, Eliza admits. About what happened with races. The request for explanation is implicit. Mateo has shared many things with Eliza over the past weeks, but he's carefully avoided the details of his restaurant's failure and his marriage's collapse. It's complicated, he hedges. Most important things are, she counters gently. The valet arrives with Eliza's car, postponing the conversation. The drive to Eliza's apartment is quiet, tension hanging between them like a heavy fog. Do you want to come up? She asks when they arrive, her voice carefully neutral. In her sleek penthouse overlooking the city, Mateo accepts a glass of wine and moves to the wall of windows. The city twinkles below them, oblivious to the personal drama unfolding above. Diana left me for one of our investors, he finally says, his back still to Eliza. A man who promised to fund her own restaurant concept if she brought my recipes and techniques with her. He hears Eliza's soft intake of breath behind him. We were already struggling, he continues. The restaurant was successful but overextended. I'd taken on too much debt for the renovation, tried to grow too fast. When she left, taking half our staff and our signature recipes, we couldn't recover. That's why you're so resistant to corporate involvement, Eliza realizes. You see it as another potential betrayal. Mateo turns to face her. Can you blame me? In my experience, money always comes with strings attached. Not always, she argues, but there's uncertainty in her eyes that catches his attention. What aren't you telling me, Eliza? She sets down her wine glass carefully. Trevor and I didn't just date casually. We were engaged briefly. The revelation lands like a physical blow. Engaged. It lasted less than 3 months, she quickly adds. Once I realized he was more interested in my father's connections than in me, I ended it. And now he's working with Diana. Against us. Mateo's mind races with implications. Was Diana at the gala? Did she see us together? I don't know, Eliza admits. But it doesn't matter. Whatever game they're playing. It's not a game, Mateo interrupts sharply. It's my life. My career. Again. He places his glass down with more force than necessary. I need to go. Mateo, please. This doesn't change anything between us. But as he leaves her apartment, they both know that's not true. The ghosts of their past relationships have materialized, casting long shadows over their future. Chapter 8. The Valencia Street property is everything Mateo has dreamed of: historic brick walls, soaring ceilings with original wooden beams, and expansive windows that flood the space with natural light. Standing in the empty building, he can already envision the open kitchen, the intimate dining room, the bar crafted from reclaimed local redwood. The building's history is perfect for your concept, Jonathan Winters remarks, his voice echoing in the vacant space. Originally a Mexican bakery in the 1940s, then an Italian restaurant for decades. Your fusion approach honors that legacy. Mateo nods, trying to focus on the business meeting and not the conspicuous distance Eliza maintains as she examines architectural drawings with the project manager. They've been professionally cordial but personally distant since the night of the culinary reception a week ago. We should move quickly, Marcus suggests, scrolling through his tablet. Our intelligence indicates Highsmith Ventures has made an inquiry on this property as well. Intelligence, Mateo repeats with a hollow laugh. Is that what we're calling corporate espionage now? Marcus looks up sharply. It's called competitive research, chef. Standard practice in any industry. Of course, Mateo concedes, though the entire situation leaves a bitter taste. This is exactly the cutthroat business world he's always resisted. When the meeting concludes, Eliza hesitates as the others leave. Can we talk? She asks quietly. Outside on the sidewalk, San Francisco wraps them in its familiar fog, providing a sense of privacy despite the bustling street. The architect's sketches look promising, she begins. Eliza, Mateo interrupts gently. You didn't stay behind to discuss floor plans. She sighs, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear, a rare gesture of uncertainty from someone usually so composed. I miss you, she admits simply. This professional distance. It's not what I want. I miss you too, he confesses. But I need time to process everything. Diana, Trevor, the history there, it feels like we're being manipulated somehow. By our exes or by circumstance, she challenges. We can't let their choices dictate ours. It's not that simple. It never is. She steps closer, her voice softening. But avoiding each other while working together is torture. Whatever happens with us personally, I still believe in you as a chef, in this restaurant concept. That hasn't changed. The sincerity in her eyes melts something in Mateo's resolve. Dinner tomorrow, he suggests. At my place. No business talk, no pressure. Just food and conversation. Her smile is warm with relief. I'd like that. The next evening, Mateo's modest apartment transforms under his careful attention. Fresh flowers brighten the small dining table, candles cast a warm glow, and the aromas of slow-cooked short ribs and fresh herbs fill the space. He's just adding the finishing touches to a mole sauce when a knock signals Eliza's arrival. She stands at his doorway with a bottle of wine and an uncertain smile, dressed simply in jeans and a soft sweater, deliberately casual, an unspoken statement that tonight isn't about Eliza Winters, hospitality executive, but just Eliza. You look beautiful, he says honestly, taking the wine. His apartment, which had always seemed adequate before, suddenly appears cramped and modest through her eyes. But if Eliza notices the water stain on the ceiling or the second-hand furniture, she gives no indication. Instead, she moves toward his kitchen with genuine interest. So this is where the magic happens when you're not at work, she observes, examining his carefully organized spice rack and well-worn but quality knives. No magic tonight, he says. Just my grandmother's recipes without any modern interpretation or fusion. The food I cook when I'm cooking for myself. The meal is simple by professional standards but executed perfectly: tender short ribs braised in red chili sauce, homemade tortillas, roasted vegetables with just the right char. They eat at his small table, the initial awkwardness melting away as they deliberately steer conversation away from work, exes, and the complications between them. Instead, they share childhood stories, debate the merits of various food films, and discover shared tastes in music. Eliza reveals her secret passion for photography, landscapes and street food, not the society events where she's usually photographed. Mateo admits his guilty pleasure for reality cooking competitions despite their dramatized inaccuracies. By the time they're sharing a simple dessert of fresh berries with crema, the ease between them has returned, perhaps deeper than before. "I've been thinking about Diana's appearance," Mateo says finally, breaking their unspoken agreement to avoid difficult topics. "And I realized something. I'm not angry about seeing her, or even about her working with your ex. I'm angry that I let her betrayal make me afraid to trust again." Eliza reaches across the table to take his hand. "Trust is hard when you've seen its limits up close. But necessary," he adds, squeezing her hand. "For any relationship. Personal or professional." The moment stretches between them, weighted with possibility. Mateo stands, tugging her gently to her feet and into his arms. Their kiss is different from the ones they've shared before, not the exhilarated celebration after the gala or the tentative exploration of new territory. This is a choice, a decision to move forward despite risks. Later, as moonlight filters through his bedroom window, Eliza traces the tattoo on his shoulder, his grandmother's handwritten recipe for mole, inked as a permanent reminder of his culinary foundations. "Tell me more about her," Eliza whispers. Mateo shares stories until words give way to touch, the night enfolding them in temporary sanctuary from the complications waiting outside. The following weeks bring intense focus to the restaurant project. The Valencia Street location is secured, architectural plans finalized, and construction begins. Mateo splits his time between overseeing the build-out and developing the menu in a test kitchen provided by Winter's Hospitality. Their personal relationship deepens alongside the professional one. Eliza introduces Mateo to her small circle of trusted friends, people who see beyond her family name. Mateo brings her to Sunday dinners at his father's modest home in the Mission, where Miguel Rivera embraces her with unmistakable warmth. "She looks at you the way your mother used to look at me," Miguel tells his son one evening as they wash dishes together while Eliza chats with Mateo's aunts in the living room. "Like you hang the moon and stars." "It's complicated, Pop," Mateo sighs. "Our worlds are so different." "Love is always complicated," his father counters. "You think it was easy for your mother and me? She from Oaxaca, me from Michoacán, different dialects, different traditions. Her family thought I was too rough, mine thought she was too educated." He chuckles at the memory. "But we built something beautiful because we chose each other every day, despite the differences." "This is different," Mateo protests weakly. "Is it?" Miguel hands him a plate to dry. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't standing alone, it's letting someone stand with you." The wisdom lingers with Mateo as the restaurant takes shape. Each decision becomes a negotiation between his vision and practical realities, with Eliza often serving as translator between his culinary idealism and her family's business pragmatism. One afternoon, as they argue about the wine program's budget, Sofia visits the construction site. "Sounds like old times," she comments after witnessing their heated debate. "You two fight exactly like you cook, with passion and precision." When Eliza steps away to take a call, Sofia confronts Mateo directly. "What's really going on with you? You're getting everything you wanted, a new restaurant, creative control, and a woman who clearly adores you, yet you're finding problems everywhere." "It's not that simple," Mateo begins. "It never is," Sofia interrupts. "But I've known you since culinary school, Mateo. You have a pattern of pushing people away when things get serious. You did it with Diana before she gave you a real reason to, and now you're doing it with Eliza." "That's not fair," he protests. "Diana left me. She betrayed everything we built." "Yes, she did," Sophia acknowledges. But you had emotionally checked out long before, retreating into your kitchen rather than facing the problems in your marriage. You're doing the same thing now. Finding reasons to create distance when things get real with Eliza. The accusation stings because it contains a kernel of truth. Mateo has been inventing small conflicts, focusing on minor disagreements, retreating to the test kitchen for unnecessarily long hours. I'm scared, Sophia, he admits quietly. Not just of failing again, but of succeeding, with her, with all of it. What if I'm not cut out for this level of everything? That's the most honest thing you've said in weeks, Sophia replies. But here's another truth: fear is a shitty chef. It burns everything it touches. That evening, when Eliza mentions another emergency meeting with her father, Mateo notices the exhaustion in her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. For the first time, he truly sees how hard she's been working to balance her family's expectations, the restaurant project, and their relationship, while he's been creating additional obstacles. Skip the meeting, he suggests impulsively. Come with me instead. I can't just, she begins. Yes, you can, he insists. One night. The restaurant will still be there tomorrow. To his surprise, she agrees with little resistance. An hour later, they're in his truck heading south on Highway 1, the coastal road winding alongside the Pacific. Eliza rolls down her window, letting the ocean air tangle her usually perfect hair, her shoulders visibly relaxing with each mile. Mateo drives to a small cove he discovered years ago, where they sit on the hood of his truck watching the sunset paint the water in shades of gold and crimson. He unpacks a simple picnic, his grandmother's tamales, kept warm in a thermos, and a bottle of wine. This is exactly what I needed, Eliza sighs, leaning against him. How did you know? Because it's what I needed too, he admits. To remember why we're doing all this. As darkness falls and stars appear overhead, Mateo shares his deepest fears, not just about the restaurant or their relationship, but about himself. His fear that success might change him as much as failure did, his worry that he'll never feel truly worthy of her world. Eliza listens, then shares her own insecurities, her lifelong struggle to be seen as more than her father's daughter, her fear that she'll never quite measure up to family expectations, her worry that Mateo will eventually resent her privilege. I want to show you something, Mateo says finally, reaching for his wallet. He removes a worn photograph, a small Mexican restaurant with a faded sign reading, Cocina de Rivera. My father built this place for my grandmother when they first came to San Francisco, he explains. It was tiny, just 8 tables, but it was everything to our family. After she died, it was sold, renovated beyond recognition. But I've always dreamed of having a place that felt like that, where food wasn't just sustenance or even art, but heritage, memory, connection. That's what this new restaurant could be, Eliza says softly. Only if it's authentic, he replies. In every sense of the word. Their conversation continues under the stars, re-establishing the foundation of honesty between them. When Mateo finally drives them back to the city, something fundamental has shifted. The past no longer looms quite so large, and the future, complex as it might be, feels possible in a way it hadn't before. The next morning, Mateo makes a decision. He calls Miguel and asks to visit, alone. His father's house is filled with memories, photographs of Mateo's mother, his childhood kitchen adventures, family celebrations that stretched into the night. Miguel serves strong coffee and listens as his son explains the crossroads he's facing. I love her, Pop, Mateo concludes simply. But her world is so different from ours. I keep waiting for the moment when that becomes an insurmountable problem. Miguel considers this, turning his coffee cup slowly in weathered hands. Your mother was the most elegant woman I'd ever met, he says finally. Education, culture, refinement, she had it all. I was just a construction worker with dirt under my nails and barely a high school diploma. This is a story Mateo has heard fragments of but never in full. I almost lost her because of my pride, Miguel continues. I kept finding reasons why it wouldn't work, why our differences were too great. Until her father, your abuelo, sat me down and said something I never forgot. He leans forward. He said, the only difference that matters is the difference you make in each other's lives. Miguel stands and disappears into his bedroom, returning with a small velvet box. Your mother's ring, he explains, opening it to reveal a simple but elegant band with a modest diamond. She would want Eliza to have it, if that's where your heart is leading you. Mateo stares at the ring, the physical embodiment of his parents' unlikely but enduring love story. I'm not sure we're there yet, he says honestly. Keep it anyway, Miguel insists. Not for today, but for when you're ready to choose what matters most. Mateo tucks the box into his pocket, its weight both comforting and terrifying, a tangible reminder of possibility, of legacy, of choice. That evening, he invites Eliza to his apartment, planning to cook her favorite dishes and perhaps share something of his conversation with his father. But when she arrives, her expression is troubled, her usual composure fractured. My father called an emergency board meeting, she says without preamble. There's been a development with the restaurant project. Chapter 9. What kind of development? Mateo asks, dread pooling in his stomach as he takes in Eliza's troubled expression. She paces his small living room, professional composure cracking. One of our flagship restaurants in Los Angeles had a major incident last night. Food poisoning. 26 people hospitalized. Jesus, Mateo breathes. Is everyone okay? They'll recover, but the PR damage is catastrophic. Health Department investigation, social media firestorm, national news coverage. She runs a hand through her hair, a rare gesture of distress. The board is in crisis mode. What does this have to do with our project? Eliza hesitates, and in that brief pause, Mateo knows whatever comes next will change everything. The board is implementing emergency protocols across all Winter's properties and projects. She takes a deep breath. Including significant modifications to our Valencia Street plan. What kind of modifications? Mateo asks, his voice dangerously quiet. Standardized safety procedures, centralized supply chain management, corporate recipe development oversight. Corporate recipe development? Mateo interrupts. You mean they want to change my menu? Not change, she clarifies quickly. Enhance with proven crowd pleasers from our other successful restaurants. Make it more accessible to a broader audience. The familiar anger rises in Mateo's chest, the same fury he felt watching investors dismantle his vision at races. You mean water it down? Make it safe and profitable rather than authentic and meaningful. That's not fair, Eliza protests. This is a temporary response to a crisis. We need to shore up investor confidence across all properties. And my restaurant is collateral damage. His tone is flat, final. It's our restaurant, she reminds him. And these changes are non-negotiable if we want to maintain Winter's group backing. The word "our" lands like a blow. Until this moment, despite all the Winter's involvement, Mateo had somehow maintained the illusion that this restaurant would be his vision, his second chance. Now reality crashes in, he is merely a component in the Winter's empire, subject to corporate decisions beyond his control. His phone rings, breaking the tense silence. The screen displays Sophia's name. I need to take this, he says, stepping into the kitchen. Sophia's voice is tight with urgency. Have you checked your email in the last hour? No, I've been with Eliza. What's going on? Diana reached out to me, Sophia explains. She has documents you need to see, internal Winter's group memos about your restaurant concept. Things they're not telling you. Mateo glances toward the living room where Eliza waits. How would Diana have Winter's documents? Apparently Trevor Highsmith has sources inside the company. Look, I know it sounds suspect, but the documents look legitimate. They're dated weeks ago, Matteo. Long before this food poisoning incident. They've been planning to standardize your concept from the beginning. The floor seems to shift beneath him. Send them to me, he says quietly before ending the call. When he returns to the living room, Eliza is on her own phone, speaking in the crisp professional tone he now associates with her executive persona. Yes, Father, I understand the board's position. I'm discussing it with Chef Rivera now. Of course, I'll make the parameters clear. Matteo waits until she disconnects. Parameters, he repeats coldly. That's what my culinary vision has been reduced to. Matteo, please understand. I just got an interesting call, he interrupts. Apparently there are internal memos detailing plans to modify my concept. Memos dated well before any food poisoning incident. Eliza's momentary flicker of surprise is all the confirmation he needs. You knew, he realizes, the betrayal washing over him in a sickening wave. All this time, while we were planning, he gestures between them, unable to name what they've become to each other. It was already decided that my vision would be compromised. It's more complicated than that, she begins. It always is with you, he cuts her off. Tell me the truth, Eliza. Was this the plan from the beginning? To use my name, my reputation, but ultimately create another safe, profitable Winters establishment? No, she protests. I fought for your vision from day one. These modifications were proposed by the board, but I've been pushing back, trying to find a compromise that preserves your culinary identity while meeting corporate requirements. Yet you never thought to tell me about these discussions? His voice rises despite his efforts to remain calm. You let me believe I had creative control while decisions were being made behind my back. I was protecting you, she insists. And the project. If I'd told you at the first suggestion of modifications, you would have walked away immediately. So you decided lying was better? I never lied, she counters. I was navigating a complex situation, trying to give your vision the best chance of survival within corporate realities. That wasn't your decision to make. His fist connects with the counter, the sharp sound punctuating his words. This is my career, my reputation, my second chance, and you treated me like a child who couldn't handle the truth. Eliza flinches at his outburst but stands her ground. You're right, she admits. I should have told you. But you've been so resistant to any corporate involvement that I was afraid. That I'd realize this was races all over again, he finishes for her. Another situation where business interests would ultimately trump culinary integrity? The silence between them stretches, heavy with unspoken accusations. Matteo's phone chimes with an incoming email. Sophia forwarding the documents. He opens it, scanning quickly through corporate language about market viability adjustments and proven customer preference integration. One passage stands out starkly. Chef Rivera's name recognition provides valuable cachet, but his insistence on authentic preparation methods presents efficiency challenges. Recommend gradual implementation of standardized techniques to improve profitability while maintaining the perception of artisanal quality. Perception of artisanal quality, he reads aloud, his voice hollow. So that's what I am to your family's company, a marketing tool to lend authenticity while you serve mass-produced approximations of my heritage. Eliza reaches for the phone. Let me see that. He pulls it away. It doesn't matter. The document just confirms what I already know. I was fooling myself thinking this could work. Matteo, please, she pleads. Some of those documents may be real, but they're being presented without context. This looks like Diana and Trevor trying to sabotage us, can't you see that? The messenger doesn't matter if the message is true, he responds. Your father confirmed it himself on your call. The parameters are non-negotiable. Their argument is interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. Matteo opens it to find Jonathan Winters himself standing in the hallway, impeccably dressed despite the late hour. "I thought I might find you both here," Jonathan says, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. He surveys Mateo's modest apartment with a quick, assessing glance before focusing on his daughter. The board meeting concluded. Decisions have been made. "Father," Eliza begins, "this isn't the time." "On the contrary," Jonathan interrupts smoothly. "Based on your expression, I gather Chef Rivera has been made aware of our proposed adjustments to the concept. Better to address it directly." He turns to Mateo. "The Winters Group has an obligation to our investors and our brand standards. The Valencia Street project will proceed with certain modifications to ensure market viability." "Market viability," Mateo echoes bitterly. "Corporate speak for stripping away anything unique or challenging." "Challenging is admirable in a chef's personal kitchen," Jonathan replies. "Less so in a multi-million-dollar investment during a PR crisis." "Then find another chef," Mateo states flatly. "I won't compromise my vision or my integrity." Jonathan's expression hardens. "Need I remind you that the Winters Group has secured the property, financed the renovations, and invested considerably in this concept? Your vision, as you call it, would still be a test kitchen fantasy without our resources." "Father." Eliza interjects sharply. "That's enough." "No, he should hear this," Jonathan continues. "The culinary world is littered with talented chefs who couldn't survive because they refused to adapt to business realities. Your first restaurant failed for precisely this reason, didn't it, Mr. Rivera? Artistic integrity doesn't pay the bills or satisfy investors." The direct reference to Race's failure stings more than Mateo wants to admit. But beneath the pain, something clarifies, a recognition that he's been here before, allowing his dream to be shaped by people who ultimately don't share his values. "You're right about one thing, Mr. Winters," Mateo says with unexpected calm. "I failed before because I compromised what mattered most to me. I won't make that mistake again." He turns to Eliza. "I'm out. Find another chef to execute your family's vision." "Mateo, please," Eliza steps between him and her father. "Let's step back and discuss this rationally. There must be a middle ground." "The middle ground was crossed weeks ago when decisions were made without my knowledge," he responds. "I trusted you, Eliza. More than the business arrangement, more than the restaurant, I trusted you with my second chance." The hurt in her eyes mirrors his own, but he forces himself to continue. "You had to choose between your family's expectations and standing up for what I believed in. You made your choice." "That's not fair," she whispers. "I've been fighting for your vision behind the scenes." "Not hard enough," he says simply. Jonathan watches their exchange with calculating eyes. "If you walk away now, Chef Rivera, you forfeit any claim to the concept we've developed together. The Valencia Street restaurant will proceed with or without you." "Take it," Mateo replies without hesitation. "It stopped being my concept the moment corporate recipes entered the picture." The finality of his words settles over the room. Eliza looks between her father and Mateo, torn between worlds. "Eliza," Jonathan says finally. "We should leave. Legal will need to prepare separation paperwork." She doesn't move, her eyes fixed on Mateo's face. "Can we talk privately? Please?" "There's nothing more to say," Mateo responds, the wall around his heart rebuilding brick by brick. "You belong in your world, and I belong in mine. We were fooling ourselves thinking otherwise." "You don't mean that," she challenges, tears threatening. "I do," he lies, because the alternative, continuing to hope for an impossible reconciliation of their worlds, hurts more than a clean break. "Go with your father, Eliza. The Winters legacy is waiting." After they leave, Mateo stands motionless in his empty apartment, the silence deafening. His phone rings repeatedly, Sophia, then his father, then Eliza again. He ignores them all, finally turning off the device completely. The next morning, he calls the only person who might understand. Chef Anton Mueller, who owns a small but respected neighborhood bistro where Matteo had staged years ago. "I need work," Matteo says simply when Anton answers. "Line cook, prep, dishwasher, anything." "What happened to the Winters project?" Anton asks, surprise evident in his voice. "Creative differences," Matteo responds flatly. Anton doesn't press further. "I could use a line cook. Nothing glamorous. Tuesday through Saturday, dinner service only." "Perfect," Matteo agrees, relief flooding through him at the simplicity of the arrangement. No contracts, no investors, no compromise, just cooking honest food in someone else's kitchen. Days blur into weeks as Matteo loses himself in the familiar rhythm of line cooking. He arrives early, preps meticulously, executes flawlessly during service, and leaves late, exhausted enough to fall into dreamless sleep. He ignores calls from Sofia, avoids industry events, and reads nothing about the continuing development of the Valencia Street restaurant. The routine provides shelter from the storm of emotions he refuses to acknowledge: the grief of another professional dream shattered, the ache of Eliza's absence, the creeping fear that he's made another catastrophic mistake. One evening, 3 months after walking away from the Winters project, Matteo is breaking down his station when Anton approaches with an unusual request. "I need a favor," the older chef says. A friend's daughter is running a community cooking class at the youth center in the Mission. Their instructor canceled last minute for tomorrow's session. "Could you fill in?" Any other request and Matteo would have refused, but the Mission is his childhood neighborhood, and teaching cooking to kids feels like a worthy exception to his self-imposed isolation. The next afternoon finds him in a community center kitchen surrounded by teenagers eager to learn basic cooking skills. As he demonstrates knife techniques and simple sauce preparation, something long dormant reawakens. The pure joy of cooking without pressure or expectations, of sharing knowledge rather than chasing accolades. "Chef Rivera?" A familiar voice catches him off guard as he's packing up after class. He turns to find Marina Winters watching him from the doorway, elegant as always but somehow softer in casual clothes, her signature blue streak freshly vibrant in her blonde hair. "Mrs. Winters," he acknowledges stiffly. "What are you doing here?" "Please, it's Marina," she corrects gently. "And I fund this program. Have for years." She steps into the kitchen, surveying the now clean workspace. "The students were quite taken with you. I watched from the back. You're a natural teacher." Matteo busies himself with his knife roll, uncomfortable with her unexpected presence. "Did Eliza send you?" "She doesn't know I'm here," Marina admits. "Though she'd certainly want to know how you are. She misses you terribly." The simple statement pierces his carefully constructed defenses. "The choice was hers to make," he says more harshly than intended. "Was it?" Marina challenges. "Jonathan can be overwhelming in his certainty. Even for those of us who love him." She sighs, perching on a stool. "Did you know I walked away from my own artistic career when I married him? My family had been in publishing for generations, and I was becoming recognized as a photographer in my own right." This personal revelation catches Matteo off guard. "I didn't know that." "Few do," she says with a sad smile. "I allowed my voice to be silenced because I thought that's what partnership required. It took years to realize that my silence didn't serve our relationship, it damaged it." She meets his gaze directly. "Eliza is stronger than I was. She's been fighting for your vision, Matteo. Even after you walked away." "It doesn't matter now," he says, though his heart races at the thought. "Doesn't it?" Marina reaches into her bag and produces a folder. "These arrived at our home yesterday. Photos of the nearly completed Valencia Street restaurant. I thought you might want to see what became of your concept." Curiosity overcomes his resolve. Matteo opens the folder to find professional photographs of the space he had once imagined filled with life. The design is stunning: exposed brick walls, the open kitchen he had insisted upon, traditional Mexican tiles accenting modern fixtures. To his shock, many of the details he had fought for remain intact. "Turn to the last page," Marina suggests quietly. The final photograph shows the restaurant sign, elegant copper letters against indigo blue, RAZ. "Route," Matteo translates reflexively. A nod to races. Eliza's decision, Marina confirms. Against considerable opposition, I might add. The menu, too, remains largely your original vision. She hired a talented chef from Mexico City to execute it, but the foundation is unquestionably yours. Why are you showing me this? Matteo asks, struggling to process what these choices might mean. Because my daughter made a mistake in not being transparent with you, Marina says directly. But you made a mistake too, in assuming her loyalty to family meant disloyalty to you. She stands to leave, placing a gentle hand on his arm. For what it's worth, I believe you belong in each other's lives, whether professionally, personally, or both. But pride makes poor company on a cold night, Matteo. Believe me, I know. After she departs, Matteo remains in the empty kitchen, Marina's words and the photographs spinning in his mind. For the first time in months, he allows himself to feel the full weight of what he's lost, not just a restaurant opportunity, but a relationship that had begun to heal parts of himself he'd thought permanently broken. Chapter 10. The next morning, Matteo calls Anton and asks for a day off. Instead of his usual breakfast routine, he finds himself wandering toward the farmer's market at the Ferry Building, a place he'd once frequented religiously but had avoided since his falling out with Eliza. They had spent a memorable Saturday there together, Matteo introducing her to his favorite vendors while she asked thoughtful questions about seasonal ingredients and traditional preparations. The market buzzes with its usual energy, chefs examining produce, tourists sampling local specialties, artisan vendors arranging their displays. Matteo moves through the crowd with practiced ease, his chef's eye automatically assessing the spring offerings. He stops at a small stand featuring rare Mexican chilies and herbs, reaching for a bunch of episode just as another hand extends toward the same bundle. "I'm sorry, you first," he begins, the words dying on his lips as he recognizes Eliza. She looks different. Her hair loose around her shoulders instead of in its usual sleek updo, dressed in jeans and a simple sweater rather than her typical business attire. For a moment, they both freeze, the bustle of the market continuing around their silent tableau. "Matteo," she finally says, his name a breath of surprise and something more complex. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I," he admits. "I mean, I didn't expect to see you. I haven't been here in months." An awkward silence stretches between them, 3 months of unspoken words creating an almost tangible barrier. "How are you?" she asks finally, the simple question carrying the weight of everything that's happened. "Working," he answers with a small shrug. "Line cook at Anton Mueller's place." Her eyebrows lift slightly. "That's quite a step down from where you were headed." "It's honest work," he responds, a defensive edge creeping into his voice. "No compromises, no corporate oversight. Just cooking good food." She nods, accepting this without argument. The simplicity must be appealing after everything. The lack of judgment in her tone catches him off guard. "What about you?" he asks, suddenly realizing he knows nothing about her life now. "Still with Winter's hospitality?" Something flickers across her face. "Not exactly." She gestures to a nearby bench. "Do you have a minute? Or do you need to get back to work?" "I have the day off," he admits, following her to the bench overlooking the bay. Once seated, Eliza takes a deep breath. "I left Winter's hospitality group 3 weeks after our..." She hesitates, searching for the right word. "Implosion?" Matteo offers dryly. A small smile touches her lips. That works. She turned slightly to face him directly. I stayed long enough to ensure Ray's remained true to your original vision, at least as much as possible without you there. Then I resigned. The revelation stuns him. You left your family's company? Why? Many reasons, she says, looking out at the water. The main one sitting right beside me. Before Matteo can process this, she continues, what happened with us, with the restaurant, made me realize I'd been living half a life, always accommodating, always mediating between my father's business vision and the creative people who actually make restaurants special. Her voice strengthens. I wanted to find my own path. And have you? He asks quietly. I'm working on it, she replies. I've started a small consulting firm helping independent restaurants develop sustainable business models without sacrificing culinary integrity. She meets his eyes directly. Essentially, I'm trying to solve the exact problem that came between us. The irony isn't lost on Matteo. So you're working with chefs like me? Similar to you, she corrects. But there's only one Matteo Rivera. The compliment warms him unexpectedly. I heard about Ray's, he admits. Your mother showed me some photos. She told me, Eliza says with a small smile. Marina doesn't believe in letting pride stand in the way of healing. Wise woman, Matteo murmurs, thinking of Marina's parting words about pride making poor company. I should have told you everything from the beginning, Eliza says suddenly, her voice dropping. About the board's plans, about the pressure from investors. I was trying to protect both you and the project, but in doing so, I betrayed your trust. She meets his gaze unflinchingly. I'm sorry, Matteo. Truly. The apology, so direct and unqualified, disarms him completely. I didn't exactly make it easy for you, he acknowledges. From day one, I was ready to see corporate villainy everywhere. And when things got difficult, I fell back on old patterns, assuming the worst, pushing people away, refusing to compromise. They sit in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared mistake settling between them. Sophia misses you, Eliza says finally. She calls me sometimes, you know. Checking if I've heard from you. This surprises him. Sophia calls you? We became friends, despite everything. She's actually my first client. Eliza smiles slightly. She said, and I quote, if you can handle Matteo's stubborn ass, you can handle any chef in this city. The comment startles a laugh from him, the first genuine laugh in months. That sounds like Sophia. Eliza's expression grows serious again. She told me something important, Matteo. About how you've been volunteering at that community cooking class. Teaching kids from your old neighborhood. It's nothing, he demurs. Just a favor for Anton that turned into a regular thing. It's not nothing, she insists. Those kids adore you. Sophia says you've never missed a class, even when you're exhausted from work. That you spend your own money on ingredients sometimes. She pauses. It shows what really matters to you, sharing your heritage, your knowledge. Not accolades or reviews. Matteo shifts uncomfortably under her perception. It reminds me why I started cooking in the first place, he admits. Before Michelin stars and investor meetings. Before everything got complicated. I miss that, Eliza says softly. Watching you cook with pure joy, without second-guessing every decision. It was beautiful. The sincerity in her voice reaches past his defenses. I miss you, he says simply, the words escaping before he can reconsider. Their eyes meet, the admission hanging in the air between them. I should go, Eliza says finally, standing. I have a meeting with potential investors for my consulting firm. Of course, Matteo nods, trying to mask his disappointment. She hesitates, then reaches into her bag and hands him a business card. If you ever want to talk, about anything, I'm here. He takes the card, their fingers brushing momentarily. "I'm glad I ran into you today," he says honestly. "Me too," she smiles, then turns to leave before pausing. "Oh, and Matteo? The episode is yours. I was only reaching for it because it reminded me of you." As he watches her walk away, Matteo feels something shift inside him, a loosening of the tight knot of resentment and hurt he's carried for months. Their brief exchange has left him unsettled in the best possible way, forcing him to confront the possibility that walking away might have been his biggest mistake yet. Later that evening, he sits in his apartment, Eliza's business card in one hand and his phone in the other. After several false starts, he calls Sophia. "Well, look who finally remembered my number works both ways," she answers without preamble. "I deserve that," he acknowledges. "I've been a terrible friend." "Yes, you have," she agrees bluntly. "But I still love your stubborn ass. What's up? Please tell me you're calling because you ran into Eliza today." Matteo blinks in surprise. "How did you know?" "Because she called me immediately after, sounding like she'd seen a ghost," Sophia explains. A ghost she's still desperately in love with, by the way. His heart races at this casual revelation. "She said that?" "Not in those exact words," Sophia admits. "But I know heartbreak when I hear it. That woman fought for your vision until she was blue in the face, Matteo. When that failed, she walked away from her family legacy rather than compromise what she believed in, what you believed in. The parallels to his own choices are not lost on him." "I didn't know." "Because you wouldn't talk to anyone," Sophia points out. "Including me, your supposed best friend." "I'm calling now," he offers weakly. "Better late than never," she sighs. "So, what are you going to do about it?" The question hangs in the air. What can he do? Too much has happened, too many harsh words exchanged, too many bridges burned. "I don't know," he admits finally. "Well, figure it out," Sophia demands. "Because life's too short for this telenovela nonsense, and you two are clearly miserable without each other." After they hang up, Matteo sits with her words. The thought of reaching out to Eliza terrifies him, not because of pride anymore, but because of what it might mean to hope again, to be vulnerable again. To risk another failure. His gaze falls on his grandmother's recipe box sitting on the bookshelf, the one constant through all his culinary journeys. He retrieves it, thumbing through the weathered index cards covered in her flowing script. One recipe catches his eye: pan de muerto para renacimiento, bread of the dead for rebirth. His grandmother had always made it not just for Day of the Dead but for any occasion that called for new beginnings. In that moment, an idea begins to form, not a grand romantic gesture, but a simple, honest offering of the one thing he knows how to give without reservation: food made with intention and meaning. The next morning, Matteo calls Anton. "I need a favor," he says. "Your restaurant. Can I borrow it for one night next week? Monday, when you're closed? I'll handle everything: food costs, staff, cleanup." "A private event?" Anton asks curiously. "Something like that," Matteo confirms. "A pop-up dinner. Just one table." With Anton's blessing secured, Matteo spends the week planning meticulously. He visits his favorite vendors, selecting each ingredient with care. He handwrites the invitation on the back of a recipe card, his grandmother's lessons on beautiful penmanship finally put to use. Eliza. Some stories deserve a better ending than the one we wrote. If you're willing, I'd like to share a meal with you, one last conversation over food made with honesty and intention. Monday, 7 p.m., Anton's Bistro. Matteo. He leaves the card with her assistant at her new office, too nervous to deliver it in person. Monday evening arrives, and Matteo transforms Anton's simple bistro into an intimate setting for two. The menu he's created tells their story, each dish representing a chapter in their complicated journey. As 7 p.m. approaches, doubt creeps in. What if she doesn't come? What if this gesture is too little, too late? What if? The door opens, and Eliza stands there, breathtaking in a simple blue dress, her expression a mixture of nervousness and hope that likely mirrors his own. "You came," he says, unable to hide his relief. "Your invitation was intriguing," she replies with a small smile. "And I've never been able to resist your cooking." He leads her to the single table set in the center of the restaurant. "I hope you're hungry. There are 7 courses." 7, she raises an eyebrow as she takes her seat. "One for each chapter of our story," he explains, suddenly feeling self-conscious about the concept. "Too much?" "No," she says softly. "It's perfect." As Matteo serves each course, he explains its significance. The first, a refined version of the dish he prepared when they met at Sophia's restaurant. The second, ingredients they discovered together at the farmer's market. The third, a tribute to the successful catering event where they first kissed. With each plate, the tension between them eases, replaced by reminiscence and cautious smiles. For the 6th course, representing their falling out, he presents a deconstructed dish, elements separated on the plate. "This," he explains, "is what happens when 2 essential components refuse to come together, even though they belong as one." Eliza studies the plate thoughtfully. "And the final course?" "That depends," Matteo says, meeting her gaze directly. "On whether you think our story deserves a new chapter." He disappears into the kitchen, returning with 2 folders rather than plates. He places one before Eliza. "What's this?" she asks, opening it to find architectural drawings. "My plan for a new restaurant," he explains, sitting across from her. "Small, independent, focused on community as much as cuisine. Just 28 seats. A place where I can cook with integrity and purpose." He takes a deep breath. "I've been saving every penny. No investors, no partners, no compromise." Eliza studies the plans, her expression unreadable. "It's beautiful, Matteo. Truly. A perfect expression of who you are as a chef." "Thank you," he says sincerely. "Now, would you open the other folder?" Inside, she finds business plans for her consulting firm, expanded, refined, with potential client lists and growth strategies. "I don't understand," she begins. "I've been thinking about what you said at the market," Matteo explains. "About helping independent restaurants succeed without sacrificing their souls. It's exactly what I've always wanted, what I failed to achieve with races." He leans forward, intensity in his gaze. "We both made mistakes, Eliza. I was too rigid, too quick to walk away rather than find middle ground. You weren't transparent enough, trying to protect everyone at once." True on all counts, she acknowledges with a sad smile. "But what if," he continues carefully, "those mistakes weren't the end of our story? What if they were just the difficult middle?" He reaches across the table, not quite touching her hand. "I'm not proposing a business partnership, at least not yet. Both of us need to establish our independent visions first. But I am proposing that we stop pretending we're better off without each other in our lives." Eliza looks from the folders to Matteo, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Is this the 7th course? A choice?" "Not exactly," he says softly. He retrieves a small plate from the kitchen, placing it before her. On it sits his grandmother's signature dessert, pan de muerto, shaped in the traditional form with bone-like decorations crossing the top, but with a modern twist in its flavors. "This is my grandmother's recipe for new beginnings," he explains as she takes a bite. "She made it whenever someone in our family needed to leave the past behind and start fresh." As Eliza savors the dessert, her expression softens. "It's wonderful. Complex but comforting. Like us," Matteo suggests with a tentative smile. She places her fork down, meeting his gaze directly. "Matteo, I need to be absolutely clear about something. I didn't leave my family's company just because of what happened between us. I left because I realized I was living someone else's version of my life. Finding my voice, my own path, has been necessary, painful, and ultimately liberating. I understand that, he assures her. I'm not asking you to give up what you've built. Good, she nods. Because I'm proud of my new company. It matters to me. As it should, he agrees. Just as my new restaurant matters to me. Then what exactly are you proposing, she asks. Matteo takes a deep breath. That we begin again, as two people who understand each other's worlds but are secure in their own. No power imbalances, no unspoken expectations, no family complications. Just us, figuring out if what we felt before was real or just caught up in the excitement of the project. Eliza considers this, her expression thoughtful. That sounds remarkably mature. I've had 3 months to think about all the ways I went wrong, he admits with a rueful smile. Maturity was bound to happen eventually. She laughs softly, the sound warming him from within. Then her expression grows serious again. There's something else you should know. Your community cooking classes. I've been funding them anonymously since you started. Not because I was trying to interfere, but because I saw how much joy they brought you, and those kids. The revelation surprises him. That was you? Anton said a donor wished to remain anonymous. I didn't want you to stop teaching because of me, she explained simply. Those classes are important. They're your way of passing on your grandmother's legacy. The thoughtfulness of this gesture, supporting something meaningful to him without seeking credit, touches Matteo deeply. It reveals an Eliza beyond the corporate executive he first met, beyond even the woman he'd begun to fall for before everything fell apart. Thank you, he says sincerely. That means more than you know. An understanding passes between them, fragile but real, a foundation to build upon. So, he ventures carefully. Do you think we could try again? Maybe start with dinner next week? No 7 courses, no agenda, just 2 people getting reacquainted. Eliza considers this, then reaches across the table to take his hand. I think, she says slowly, that our story deserves not just a better ending, but a whole new volume. The warmth of her hand in his feels like coming home. I'd like that, he admits. Very much. As they sit together in the quiet restaurant, the weight of past mistakes still present but no longer insurmountable, Matteo realizes that perhaps his grandmother was right all along. The bread of the dead isn't just about remembering what's lost, but about nourishing new beginnings from the lessons of the past. Next time, Eliza says with a smile, I'll cook for you. Fair warning, I've been taking lessons. Brave woman, Matteo teases, his heart lighter than it's been in months. I look forward to it. Outside, the San Francisco fog rolls in, shrouding the city in its mysterious embrace. But inside, between 2 people finding their way back to each other, everything is suddenly, perfectly clear. Chapter 11. 1 year later. The evening crowd at Segundo hums with conversation and appreciation, the intimate 28-seat restaurant filled to capacity as it has been every night since opening 4 months ago. In the open kitchen, Matteo works with focused precision, plating a dish with the same care whether it's going to a food critic or a first-time diner. Order up for table 7, he calls, sliding the plates toward his newly promoted sous chef, a young woman from his community cooking class who showed exceptional talent. Yes, chef, she responds with confident efficiency, whisking the dishes away. Matteo glances at the clock, almost closing time. His gaze drifts to table 9, the corner table reserved every Tuesday night for the same guest. Eliza sits there now, laptop open as she reviews documents for her consulting firm, which has grown to include 5 employees and a roster of successful independent restaurant clients. Their eyes meet across the room, and she smiles. That private smile that still makes his heart race after all these months. He returns it before refocusing on the final orders of the night. Later, after the last customers have departed and the staff has completed cleanup, Matteo joins Eliza at her table, sliding into the seat across from her with an exhausted but satisfied sigh. "Successful service?" she asks, closing her laptop. "Full house, 0 returns, and Santiago handled the fish station perfectly," he confirms. "How was your day?" "Productive. Signed 2 new clients, both immigrant-owned restaurants struggling with permit issues." She reaches for his hand across the table. "I talked to Sophia earlier. She's confirmed for Sunday dinner." Sunday dinners have become their tradition, alternating between Matteo's father's home and the Winters estate, bringing together their increasingly intertwined families. What began as tentative, awkward gatherings have evolved into boisterous celebrations where Miguel teaches Marina traditional recipes while Jonathan discusses business strategies with Sophia and Marcus debates cooking techniques with Matteo. "Dad's making his famous birria," Matteo tells her. "He's been slow cooking it since this morning," according to his texts. "Very excited about some new chilies he found. And my mother is bringing her camera to document everything as usual," Eliza adds with an affectionate eye roll. She's determined to complete that cookbook project. The cookbook, Heritage and Innovation, Recipes for Life and Love, had been Marina's idea, a collaboration between Matteo and Eliza documenting their culinary and personal journey. What started as a creative outlet has drawn interest from several publishers, another unexpected development in their evolving story. "Did I tell you Diana called the restaurant today?" Matteo mentions casually, watching for Eliza's reaction. Her eyebrow raises slightly. "Oh. Apparently her new venture with Trevor isn't going well. She wanted to know if I'd consider consulting." He shakes his head with a rueful laugh. "The irony wasn't lost on me." "What did you tell her?" Eliza asks, curious rather than concerned. "I referred her to the best restaurant consultant I know," he replies with a smile. "Gave her your business card." Eliza laughs, the sound still his favorite in the world. "That's either very generous of you or slightly diabolical." "A bit of both," he admits. "But mostly, I just don't have room in my life for grudges anymore." He squeezes her hand. "Too busy with what matters." It's true. Between Segundo's success, his ongoing community classes, now officially sponsored by Eliza's consulting firm, and their relationship, Matteo's life is fuller than he ever imagined possible after the collapse of races. "I have something for you," he says suddenly, reaching into his pocket. "A late-night dessert." He places a small plate between them, a miniature version of his grandmother's pan de muerto, the same dessert he served the night of their reconciliation 1 year ago. But this one has something nestled among the decorative bones, on top, a simple, elegant ring. Eliza's eyes widen as she recognizes what this means. "Matteo. My grandmother gave me this ring before she died," he explains quietly. "She said to save it for someone who understood that love, like cooking, requires both passion and patience." He meets Eliza's tearful gaze. "I can't imagine offering it to anyone but you." "Are you sure?" she whispers. "We've been so careful to maintain our independence, our separate paths." "Independence doesn't have to mean distance," he replies. "We've proven we can build something together while still honoring our individual dreams." "I love you, Eliza, not despite your ambitions, but because of them. Because of who you are." Tears spill onto her cheeks as she reaches for the ring. "Yes," she says simply. "Yes to all of it." As he slides the ring onto her finger, his grandmother's heirloom now continuing its journey, Matteo realizes that the recipe for happiness wasn't what he thought. It wasn't about having complete control or avoiding all compromise. It was about finding the right partner with whom to create something new, something neither could have imagined alone. "I was thinking," Eliza says, admiring the ring on her finger, "about that cookbook project." "What about it?" he asks. "It needs a final chapter," she suggests. "About how 2 people from different worlds discovered they weren't so different after all." About how sometimes the best recipes come from unexpected combinations. Matteo smiles, leaning across the table to kiss her softly. I think we're still writing that chapter, he murmurs against her lips. And I can't wait to see how it continues. Outside Segundo's windows, San Francisco glitters in the night, a city of reinvention and second chances. Inside, a chef who once lost everything and a woman who once had everything but herself have found, together, the perfect balance, a recipe for a life well lived, with just the right amount of sweetness, spice, and the unmistakable flavor of love.